Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this very special series of workshops led by Kell Julliard and based on Dr. Jud Brewer's research into how we can effectively change behaviors and then sustain those behavioral changes we make, especially as Dr. Brewer describes it in his new book, The Hunger Habit. I'm John Roberts, Operations Manager for Mindfulness-Based Learning at Point 32 Health and its family of companies, including Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. I'm joining you from beautiful Shutesbury, Massachusetts. We'd love to know where folks are tuning in from, so please do feel free to share that information with us and the other attendees using the chat feature. Now, before we begin, if folks are interested in viewing the recording of a workshop with Dr. Jud Brewer that he produced for us a few weeks ago, they can access that video at no cost by going to our website at point32health.org/the-hunger-habit. For folks watching this live, I will be dropping that link into the chat box in just a moment, and you will also receive an email within about 24 hours with some follow-up materials from me, including that link. If you are watching a recording of this session, the links you need will all be in the notes below this video. Now, as a reminder, this is session 1 of 4, and if you miss any of the sessions in the series and want to catch up or just want to rewatch some of them again, you can do so by going, once again, to point32health.org/the-hunger-habit. Just one more thing before I turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Kell. Aside from mindfulness programming just like this series, Point 32 Health is proud to produce an incredible array of virtual wellness classes and webinars. These include Zumba classes, yoga classes, and rotating series of webinars on topics like reducing stress, developing better financial health, starting an exercise routine, decoding food labels, and living more simply and sustainably. All of these are free resources available to anyone, and they can be found at point32health.org/livingwellatHome. Once again, that link will be coming to you in the chat in just a moment. Now, Kell Julliard has taught mindfulness skills to healthcare professionals and the general public in a variety of settings, including for Point 32 Health, also at well-known hubs for learning such as the Garrison Institute, the Kripalu Center, and the Omega Institute. He is certified by the International Mindfulness Teachers Association, has a clinical background as a psychotherapist in the chemical dependency field. Kell recently served as Director of Clinical Research for the Family Health Centers at NYU Langone, during which time he published several peer-reviewed papers on the impacts of mindfulness trainings on healthcare professionals. Welcome, Kell.
Thank you so much, John. It's really great to be with all of you. We're going to plunge right into this material because 45 minutes isn't very long, but I want to emphasize at the beginning that these are really coaching sessions. They're focused on application of the principles that are in the hunger habit and that Jud talked about in his talk. So we're really going to be focusing on how you bring these into your life. So this is not going to be a lot of lecture, but it's going to be stuff that we do and interact with. So we've got the chat for reflections and questions. So feel free to use that. But I'm going to share my screen again for a little bit and give you the subtitle of Jud's book, Why We Eat When We're Not Hungry and How to Stop. So this is really the focus of what we're doing, but I want to emphasize that you can apply the techniques and principles that we're going to be talking about in these sessions, the 4 sessions that we're going to be doing, to any habit that you want to change. So, and we welcome you to share other habits as we go through our interactive parts of this. This is broadly applicable, these principles. So I'm going to ask John to launch a poll. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment while he does that. And that poll is going to ask you, did you listen to Dr. Jud Brewer's talk that he gave recently, or read the Hunger Habit book, either one? So please answer that, and that will give me a sense of of kind of where we are in terms of your background with this particular material. So while you're responding to that poll, I'm going to share the overview of what we're going to be doing in these 4 sessions. So tonight, we're going to be looking at habits in depth, something called the habit loop, which you'll understand hopefully very well by the time we end this session. And we're going to be talking about curiosity and how to bring curiosity more fully into our lives. In session number 2, we're going to be talking about how we know we're hungry and accessing the wisdom of our bodies more deeply to distinguish eating because we're hungry and eating because we've been triggered by something else. In session 3, we're going to be talking about cravings and how to surf those cravings skillfully so that we can dismantle unhealthy habits. And then finally, in our 4th session called A Bigger, Better Offer, about how to really move into a more rewarding, healthier, more fulfilling life, building something we're calling an enchantment data bank. So John, if you wouldn't mind sharing the results of this poll.
Absolutely, Kell. So it looks like we have about 46% of the folks attending right now did see Jud's talk and or read his book. 15% partially, and 39% none of it.
Okay, that's just fine. It's perfectly fine, whichever one, but this just gives me a sense of explanation and where we should go at the in my recommendations at the end. All right, great. So before we plunge into our topic for tonight, let's do an arriving practice. So this is a way of moving from our normal doing mode into our being mode, just being. So one of the ways that we can do that is by taking a breath and just letting it go, or maybe you just like to stretch a bit. So whatever helps you move into being, just do that. And in this place of being, just notice what you're experiencing, what's going on inside in the realm of thoughts and feelings, what sounds are in your environment, what does it feel like to be sitting or standing or whatever posture you're in. Just notice what it's like to be alive and aware in this moment. No need to change it. Just come into being in your experience right now. Okay. It doesn't take very long to just shift into present moment experience. So tonight, we're going to talk about your goals for coming to these sessions. Briefly, we're going to talk about willpower. Then we're going to go into what we're calling habit loops, the sort of way our habits unfold in our lives. And then about curiosity, how to get curious. And finally, we'll end with some action steps for the next week before our 2nd session. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to reflect on what brought you to these sessions. What would you like to get out of these sessions? What is your goal for being here, particularly related to habits that you might want to move out of, habits that are not serving you, and maybe how to cultivate habits that are going to serve your life more in this moment. So I'd really like to invite you to reflect on this and to key into the chat what your goal might be. Now, if you're uncomfortable doing that, that's just fine. If you are comfortable, please let us know what is your goal for being here. And I'm going to put up on the screen some possible goals. So feel free to read these. They might help you get in touch with what you would like to get out of these sessions. The top goals relate to eating. The bottom goals relate to other things. So whatever your goal is, I'm going to encourage you to write it down for yourself. And if you feel comfortable doing so, put it in the chat.
Kel, if you'd like, I can share some of the things coming into the chat.
That would be great, John.
So some folks are saying things such as, I'd like to stop eating mindlessly and lose weight, make healthier food choices and lose weight, strengthen positive relationships while decreasing food consumption. I want to eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm not. Stop eating without being hungry. I need to quit the clean plate club. I understand that one. This person says it makes me so uncomfortable not to eat everything, even if I was served way too much, like at a restaurant. Someone says they would like to work on not eating compulsively when they're stressed. I'd like to get back to clean eating, stop eating mindlessly. This person says I want to age more healthfully and gracefully. Eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm full. Make the most out of this last chapter of my life. Health, creativity, relationships. Eat with intention. Be more aware of choices I make when stressed. It's a lot of great stuff there.
Super. Wonderful. These are all great goals. And thank you, those of you who've shared. Really appreciate your putting that in the chat. Just hearing all of our goals, it really helps us figure out more what we want. So really, oh, I don't want that, but oh, that sounds really good. So thank you so much for putting that material in the chat. Okay, so, and if you didn't write this down that you can take with you after this session, please, like if you keyed it into the chat but didn't write it down on a piece of paper, please write something down so that you can refer to that over the week and revise it, change it if you like. There's no problem with creating a new goal. Okay, so we're going to move into talking about willpower for a moment. Now, willpower, commonly defined, is our ability to control our actions, our emotions, our urges. It's maybe a determination that allows us to do something really challenging. There's that just say no to drugs, just stop it. The calories in, calories out thing around eating is often framed in terms of willpower. But there are some significant problems with willpower. So when you resist things, that tends to persist. It's like that, don't think of a white bear and then all that you can think about is a white bear. What you put on the forbidden list is often creates cravings just by putting it on the forbidden list. And when you backslide and the willpower runs out, then it's like, oh, I might as well binge. And then things really get out of hand. The problem with willpower, the research that Jud cites in his book, The Hunger Habit, is that it doesn't really increase with practice. There's not really a great way of building willpower, and it's easily depleted, especially when you're hungered or triggered by something or stressed out. When you've used a lot of your mental capacity for something, willpower like runs out. And so we don't have it there to use when we actually need it. So the good news in the 4 sessions that we're going to be doing here is that this approach doesn't rely on willpower at all. So we're not going to be having this problem around our willpower running out. Okay, so that's as much as I want to say about willpower. There's a lot in Jud's book and some in his presentation about that. But let's move into really the heart of what we're going to be doing tonight. This is the foundation of the whole approach, is understanding habits and habit loops. So what I'm going to invite you to do is put in the chat, what makes something a habit? How do we know when something's a habit? What's your definition of habit? And John has kindly put these questions in the chat so that you can refer to them. But I'd really like you to get in touch with what you think of when you think of habits. How do we know something's a habit as opposed to something else? What's your definition of that?
All right, Kell. Once again, we're getting some good things here. So one attendee says defines habit as something that's easy to do without thinking, something that's rote or repetitive, doing something repeatedly, mindlessly, doing something without a lot of fuss, recurring behavior. When you do something that you without thinking, repetition, repetitive action. Something's hard not to do, something done automatically without conscious effort. Something that you put into your daily routine until it becomes a part of your routine. Something you do without thinking, for better or for worse, and just a consistent practice. Those are some of the
Excellent, excellent, excellent. These are fantastic. So here's the slide I came up with, which you all have just nailed completely. Something we do regularly, perhaps, that is repeated, that we do it on cue. And I love Wendy Wood's definition. She's a habit scientist. Something we do without having to make a decision. If you make a decision whether to do something or not, then it's not a habit. A habit is something we do automatically, as you all said, And so I would add, in terms of what we're going to move into now, it's anything that has a trigger, behavior, reward cycle, reward or result. So let's move into that. And again, thank you, all of you who are putting stuff in the chat. It's so helpful to have all of these concepts framed in a variety of ways. All right. So before we move into the habit loop and unpacking that, I want to emphasize healthy habits really are the key to a happier life. We engage in habits the great part of our day, unaware that that's what's going on. And I love Richie Davidson's quote. Richie Davidson is an eminent neuroscientist, really the father of contemplative neuroscience. He says, well-being is a skill. And so we're really going to be working in these 4 sessions with skills that foster our well-being. So let's move into the habit loop. And I'm going to ask John to put a link in the chat to the document online that Dr. Jud Brewer has on his website. And I'm going to be giving you some other links to that. So this habit mapper that you're going to get enables us to get in touch with what are our habit loops. So this is the overview, and let's go through this one step at a time. Let's move into the behavior part of this. The behavior is the habit itself, whether it's brushing your teeth or snacking while watching TV, whatever that might be, the behavior is the habit. So what I'm going to be inviting you to do, to actually write in the chat or in your journal or on a piece of paper, what are habits that you would like to change? And John's going to paste this question in the chat as well. What is a habit that you would like to change? Now, hopefully this will relate to the goal that you set for this course. So I'm actually also going to put a habit in the chat. Mine is eating lots of sweets for dessert after every meal, which is something that is a habit for me that I would like to change. I'm going to emphasize something, however, related to this material. If you have an eating disorder, such as anorexia or bulimia nervosa, we're really encouraging you to work with your doctor or mental health clinician to support you. This approach may not be all that you need or what you need. So it's very important, if you actually have a diagnosable eating disorder, to work with a clinician who can really help you and support you with that. Don't approach this as though this is going to be a magic solution to that. It's not magic by any means. It's based in neuroscience, what we're doing. But for eating disorders, this is not what's recommended in terms of dealing, of getting some help for those. So I've put some examples of habits that are common habits that people might want to change. But John, what do we have in the chat?
Yeah, these are very recognizable to me, Cal. We're seeing things like reaching for snacks when watching TV, second helpings, snacking when I come home from work. This person wants to better plan their meals with more fruits and vegetables, eating sweets when I'm stressed or bored. Somebody has the same one as that I put in, which was scrolling mindlessly on my phone, something I am trying to work on. Be able to choose healthier options when snacks are present. Going crazy over gravy on anything. Having been raised in the Midwest, I really understand that one as well. But yes, lots of very, I feel like there's a lot of creative thinking going on here.
This is great. This is really great. These are all excellent. Super. So look at your goal and the habit the behavior that you just keyed in the chat or that you wrote down in your journal. See if there's a match there. It's not a problem if there's not. If there's not a match, it may alert you that there's another goal that you want to develop for these 4 sessions. And you can certainly have more than one goal for these. The important thing is that you're getting in touch with habits that don't serve you currently, habits that you'd like to change in a healthier way, in some way. And I'm going to share my screen again, and we'll move into the next part of the habit loop, which we might call the result or the reward. But result is better because reward implies something positive, but often from the habits we want to change, the results aren't so great. Often the result is positive in the short term, but not so great in the long term. For brushing your teeth, it's actually a little bit of a hassle in the short term, but hopefully in the long term, the result is great. So I keep doing that morning and night. But for the habits we want to change, often there's some short-term payoff, but the longer-term results aren't so great. So I've got some examples of results. Short-term, we feel better in some way, but long-term, we feel worse. For instance, after some kind of unhealthy eating, we might be sluggish, we might be tired, our stomach might be uncomfortable. If we've been eating to distract ourselves from some emotion or scrolling on our phone to distract ourselves from an emotion, that doesn't really deal with the emotion or the stressful situation. Depending on the habit, there might actually be interpersonal consequences. If you're scrolling on their phone all the time, your spouse, significant other, or friend might feel neglected, or child especially. I know children are very aware of when we're not paying attention to them, but we're locked into our phones. So reflect on the results of the habit that you've indicated that you would like to change. And if you're comfortable doing so, please key that into the chat. So what is the result, the longer term problematic result of the habit that you would like to change? And I'm going to do the same with mine. So I'm sharing, I think I'm only sharing to host and panelists, which is not a good idea. I want to share with everybody. So the habit that I put in earlier, which you probably didn't see because I sent it to the wrong group, was I'm eating sweets after every meal, including breakfast. And often I need to take a nap. I have a stomach that's a bit queasy. If it's chocolate, I get a caffeine rush, which then leads into trouble sleeping. So these are all results that I don't like. John, you want to share some of the things that are in the chat?
Yes, so I just want to say, mine was about scrolling on my phone, Kel, as you were pointing out, and my result was I feel agitated, and yet as though I have accomplished nothing. But I also just wanted to point out that I realized I was doing this too much when my 3.5-year-old son, whenever he saw my phone sitting around somewhere, he would bring it to me because he thought I needed it. Be like, here you go, Doll, you left this over here, and I was like, maybe too much time on my phone. So people here are saying things for their results: weight gain or sluggishness, needing to take a nap, upset stomach, caffeine or chocolate rush, feeling bad after the behavior, end up going to bed late, feel guilty for wasting my time, my own time, finish my plate before everyone else at the table, which is embarrassing, feeling of guiltiness, wasting money because of buying too much junk food. Short term, I feel satisfied. Long term, makes me feel emotional guilt for the weight gain, feeling too full, too tired, upset.
Great, great. Thank you so much for keying these in. It's so helpful to hear these and get some examples of these results that very important to begin tuning into these. Okay. So let's move into the third aspect of the habit loop. We're putting this last, but this is the one that actually, in terms of timing, comes first. It's the trigger for the habit. What sets off the habit? It could be almost anything. So we've got trigger, habit or behavior, the actual behavior of the habit, and then the result, short-term and long-term. So these three portions of the habit loop. So now we're looking at the trigger, what triggers the habit. And I'm going to put up on the screen some examples of triggers. And I want to talk about this a little bit because there can be positive, negative, or neutral triggers. So for instance, if we're stressed and anxious at work, we might want to have some sweets or a bag of chips or scroll on our phones or some other thing. But sometimes when we feel relieved about something, we want to celebrate. That's a positive trigger, but it can still trigger a habit that doesn't serve us. We might be lonely and engage in something that distracts us from the loneliness. Along with emotions and sensations, situations or places. I know just getting into one's car can trigger smoking. Getting into your car is a neutral thing. Generally, we don't feel positively or negatively about getting into our car, but sometimes if you're a smoker, you just want to light up when you get into the car. Or maybe you're used to having a candy bar while you drive to work or drive home from work. So just getting into your car, no healthy food in the house, driving by a fast food restaurant or a donut place, getting yelled at by your boss. But what if you won a game, got a raise, received a job offer? Those are all positive things. Being at a party can be a positive, negative, or neutral, depending on how you like parties, as can visiting your family. Just seeing a package of some kind of food sitting out on the counter can be a trigger. That's a neutral thing. So I'm going to put my trigger in the chat, but John, what do we have any triggers in the chat yet?
Anxiety, yes.
Yeah, that's me. As I get toward the end of my whatever my main thing is, whether it's my breakfast omelet or my lunch sandwich, I haven't even finished eating it when I'm thinking about what sweets I'm going to get. So just approaching the end of my meal triggers the thoughts about dessert and that habit. So what else have we got?
Well, someone says just walking into the kitchen is the trigger. For me, it's a sense of boredom sometimes. A lot of people saying stress and anxiety, or things out at work, like candy bowls at the office, they say. Procrastination, just the need to do something else.
Great. These are all tremendously good examples. Needing to fill space. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm sad, rather than confronting that sadness, I find something to eat. Problem is I don't recognize the sadness as an issue. When we eat to our feelings, that we don't really feel our feelings. We can't take advantage of what they're telling us. We're just stuffing them, putting them away. So such a good point that you've made about sadness. Eating in order to put off doing a task I don't want to do. Boy, that was a big one for me at work. I remember, being sort of stressed about something I needed to do at work, and going out in this trance looking for a cookie anywhere. And there wasn't a cookie in the area, which was really frustrating. Okay, thank you so much for keying in these examples of triggers. So we're going to move out of habit loops for now, and I'm going to share my screen about the practice that we're going to do that's going to be tremendously helpful over these 4 sessions and actually over the course of our lives. And that's curiosity practice. We often don't think about practicing curiosity, but Dr. Jud really emphasizes this and the value of this. And I have completely found my life experience validating what he says in his book and in his talk about curiosity. Now, an ordinary way we think about curiosity is that we need to figure something out, we need to learn something, we need to solve a problem. But I'm going to encourage us to think about curiosity in a different way in these sessions and as we work with our habit loops. So our curiosity is going to be based in an investigation of our actual lived experience in this moment, in the moment, the now of our lives, diving into the mystery of that now without the need to solve anything, just more deeply experiencing and exploring what we find in this present moment where our lives really are unfolding. It's the present moment where the heart of our life is. And the more we come into our present moment, the happier we are. There's actually research out of Harvard that indicates that when our minds are wandering, we are less happy than even when we're doing something neutral in the present moment. When our minds are wandering, we're either in the past with regret, or we're in the future with anxiety. There might be certainly pleasant things that come up, but mostly we're less happy when our minds are wandering than we are when we're in the present moment. So getting curious about our present moment experience is so important. So I'm going to be guiding us through a practice around curiosity. And the good news is John is going to send you the link to a practice that Dr. Brewer is leading. And he's actually going to put that in the chat right now. But there's a 5-minute, a 10-minute, and a 20-minute curiosity practice on Dr. Jud's website. And I'm going to be guiding us through that in this last portion of our session tonight. So take a moment to find a comfortable way of either sitting, standing, lying down, whatever posture works best for you. Check in and see if you're sitting or lying or standing in a way that your spine is comfortably upright and that your body is relaxed. Spine comfortably upright, because that's a posture that fosters presence, about really being present in this now, aware in this moment, and body relaxed so that we bring a sense of ease into this present moment. And I'm going to ask you to bring awareness to the anchor of your hands. Just notice what your hands feel like right now, as though they were brand new, that you'd never experienced your hands before. What does it feel like that whatever your hands are resting on, relaxing on, what is that texture like? Just notice the quality of your experience, of the texture of what your hands are resting on. Our awareness is in our hands right now. Just get curious about that. Now notice the temperature of your hands. Are they cool? Are they warm? What does that feel like? Is one hand different in terms of temperature from the other? Is one cooler or warmer? Is one part of your hand cooler or warmer than another part? No need to change this or analyze it. Just get curious about experiencing the differences in temperature that you're noticing in your own hands. Are there other sensations in your hands, like tingling, that I didn't even mention? Perhaps you can even feel your heartbeat in your hands. Maybe not, but just notice what's there. And now broaden your awareness to your body as a whole, as though you were experiencing your posture for the first time. How do you know what position your body is in? Just notice the way your joints feel, the way the different parts of your body, you can experience their relationship to one another. Just notice how you know that you're sitting or standing or lying down in a particular posture. What does it feel like to feel the weight of your body against the chair or the weight of your feet against the floor? What is your unique experience of that like in this moment, to feel your weight in the chair, against the floor? If your eyes are closed, let them gently open. And notice that you're seeing colors and shapes. You can bring curiosity to any aspect of your experience. Just really experiencing whatever is arising in the present moment. So that concludes our curiosity practice for this evening. If your eyes are closed, let them gently open. Maybe stretch a little bit, look around just to come back to the space. And if you feel like keying anything about that practice, what that was like for you, maybe a question about the practice, if you have one, or a question about the habit loop, if there's any questions you have about that, feel free to put those in the chat. And while you're doing that, I'm going to share my slides again and talk about our action steps between now and next week, our second session. So I'm going to invite you to use the habit mapper that John is going to send you the file of and the link to map habits that you would like to change. What triggers them? What is the habit itself? What are the short-term and long-term results of the habit? Do this curiosity practice, especially with these habits, really experiencing the trigger, experiencing the habit itself, experiencing the results, and use this mapping of the loops and doing the curiosity practice to help you deepen your experience of your goal, of what you really want to get out of these sessions. Get curious about your habits. I see this in the chat. So great. Absolutely. So I'm joking about the extra credit. The extra credit will be the benefit to your life. If those of you that haven't seen Dr. Jud's talk yet, I recommend watching that. It's really lovely. He's such a wonderful human being. It's just tremendous to have some time with him. And if you're motivated, read The Hunger Habit. There's so much great material in that book. Check it out of the library. Get it from your library, buy it, whatever local bookseller you've got. So that actually concludes the material that I have for this session. John, what do you want to do to end this session?
Well, if any folks have questions, we are at our closing time of 7:15, but we can stick around if there are questions that folks have.
I see. How does the curiosity practice help with managing weight? So this is going to be a question that a lot of people have. So we're going to talk about that in subsequent sessions, but basically we're approaching this as a way to bring us into healthier patterns that then result in a healthier weight. So if you have concerns about losing weight, we're definitely going to be giving skills that will be a result of, but it's not going to be the first thing. It's not going to be what we're focusing on, but just by a healthier lifestyle that typically comes along as something that happens automatically.
Kel, I thought this was an interesting one. Somebody is asking, would you mind naming some good habits that link the trigger behavior result modality?
Well, I mean, one that's really fundamental is, oh, I'm feeling hungry right now. What would I really like to eat? And, and then that process is, that's a habit. I want to eat when I'm hungry. I'm going to do it. And the healthy part of that is when you get curious and in touch with the results, it's like you want to eat food that makes you feel good, both in the short term and in the long term. And that tends to be healthy food because our bodies like that. So that's one example.
Or, I feel like any sort of just, engagement with somebody that you care about, the trigger is wanting to engage with that person. The behavior is that conversation, and then the result is feeling more connected, I would think,
So let me also say, let's say lonely is a trigger. Let's say I'm feeling lonely. Well, instead of eating, I could call a friend. I could recognize that I'm feeling that loneliness, and give myself some actual loving kindness and support. That there are ways of really caring for myself when I'm lonely that can make a huge difference. And I don't have to engage in doom scrolling on my phone or eating a bag of chips to like push the loneliness away. I can actually feel it and care for myself. And that's ultimately a much healthier way of responding to feelings of loneliness, for instance.
That was a beautiful thought, Kel. And I feel like I love ending on a note of beauty. And so maybe that will be it.
Okay.
But thank you so much, Kel, for your guidance this evening. Thank you, everyone, for attending. So I hope everyone has a wonderful evening and a great rest of your week. And we will see you back here next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Thank you, everyone.